All right. Hey, welcome to weekday coronavirus-driven mind stuff. My name is George Ortega, and this is Monday, June 22nd, 2020, episode 52 at 8:32 p.m. I was supposed to be doing a Zoom room at this time, but I've been having a lot of trouble with my internet connection, so I just spoke to Sprint. And we got that figured out, hopefully. What else? So hope you enjoyed yesterday's episode. That was this guy, Drama Rock, who I had met. He'd come into one of my rooms, and he's got basically his podcast and all. I'll have him, on again. Let's see, what else? I'm tired. I got a lot done today. I have to return this book. I ordered a Birnbaum Orthodox Jewish Siddur prayer book, and this was eBay. I mean, ordinarily eBay is great. I get a lot of stuff through there, but they sent me a living Bible. And it's not quite the same thing. So anyway, I sent it back today, and then I put in, I just got my absentee ballot last week, several days ago, whatever. And so I find out today, as I'm filling it out, that it has to be postmarked, a day before Election Day. I think Election Day is tomorrow, right? I mean, So I got that done, and got some good stuff done today, I guess. Played bass for maybe 2-3 hours. I was just thinking to myself, when I was younger, instead of spending 35 years trying to, help the world in ways that just to a great extent didn't work out, I don't think you could say that I have my aspirations too high. I'm not sure about that. Ending global poverty, things like that. But anyway, so I was thinking to myself that that it would have been great if I had become a musician, professionally. But here's the thing. So I'm 62, and practicing as I'm practicing the bass, I'm finally going to get good, and I hope to get really good. And so if I do get really good, whether I join a band, what I prefer to do is just be a studio musician. Except apparently studio musicians have to read music. I don't read music. So, I think what I'm hoping is that, I have a distinctive style. I play bass the way, people play lead guitar to a great extent. And so what I'm hoping is that if I'm good enough that musicians will just be fine with my improvising to whatever they have. I don't know. If that doesn't work out, I'm still really psyched about playing the bass, getting good at it. Because it's a totally different, level when you're, I improvise, and the challenges are to be smooth, to be interesting, and to not hit sour notes, and that's, so I'm progressing well in all three areas recently. So I'm hoping that, and the other thing is one of the things I think that has stopped me from, playing more is I'm particular about the music I play to. It's basically rock, soft rock sometimes. I enjoy pop music, I enjoy music of the 50s, the 40s, the big band stuff, and I enjoy jazz and other styles, other genres, but yet Pink Floyd, they are amazing. They're amazing to jam to, okay? And because you can't jam to, like, for example, the Beatles is pretty hard to jam to. Simon and Garfunkel is pretty hard to jam to. There's a lot of bands they're not, their music isn't designed to inspire, improvisation to. That's, it's a different kind of music. So, but anyway, I've been playing to Floyd, and they are amazing. They're beyond amazing. There's this guy, Sid Barrett. He was one of the founding members of the group before they became famous. It's an interesting story about him. He was the driving force of the group. He was like the creative genius. And Pink Floyd pretty much, I got to look into this. There were other groups at the time that were doing kind of like progressive rock. It's called psychedelic rock. It's like taking rock to another level beyond the Beatles and the Stones and the Who. It's like Yes was doing it. Emerson, Lake and Palmer, for example. Emerson, Lake and Palmer, basically they would do classical but in a rock style, which was pretty amazing. The music's much more complicated. You have to be a real musician. I think maybe that's what happened. Like during that time, it was too complex, too demanding for most musicians, and maybe it was like ahead of its time, in order to be appreciated. I mean, look, Dark Side of the Moon, Pink Floyd's album, it's it was on the charts for 741 weeks in a row, that album, and that, I imagine, by far beats any other album for longevity on the charts. So Barrett was the driving force, and unfortunately he took too many drugs, I guess, and so he the story goes like they were up on a set one night, and he's up there playing the same note over and over and over. And so I'm reading it's unfortunate, because like the guy was, but the thing is, like, all right, here, so he left the group, and this guy, David Gilmour, who's an amazing guitarist, by my estimation, the best lead guitarist in the world. He's not fast, but he is so creative and so smooth and so good. Yeah, I think he outdoes Clapton, Hendrix, and these guys are good in their own ways. But like Gilmour's sound, it's like less is more. He doesn't play that many notes, but the notes he plays as they play them. But anyway, like, so in yogic philosophy, yogic tradition, there's something that's known as Shakipat, and that's the idea of, like, for example, you have a guru, somebody who's enlightened, who through some means that we don't understand, at least in terms of science, can confer spirituality to other people. I mean, for example, I think Richard Alport, who became Ram Dass, a Harvard psychologist who went to India to learn how to meditate, he kind of, I think, mentions meeting a yogi and then just like feeling this feeling come over him that's just like beyond explanation, things like that. But anyway, the reason I mention that is because, like, they did their best work after Barrett, and as a matter of fact, one of their albums, Wish You Were Here, they dedicated that to him pretty much. A couple of one of the tracks, like Shine On You Crazy Diamond, parts 1 and 2, are about him and a tribute to him. But I think what happened, I think he kind of, like, what he did for them, and I'm guessing because I'm just learning their history now. I've enjoyed their music for decades, and I really haven't, for example, like, the recent music, they recorded an album in 2014, another one more recently. I'm not familiar with that music. This is a learning thing for me. But Barrett, I think what he did for them is he helped them, enabled them to break with the tradition of rock at the time. He wasn't the only one who was doing this, I think. You know, it's my understanding. King Crimson, this group called Nice, a few others. I mean, like, you know, the Beatles were also part of this. You know, their Sgt. Pepper and Revolver. You know, they were breaking ground, but I think that's what he did. He got them, you know, to kind of like to understand that they could do a lot more. They could go into a different direction. And then Gilmour, you know, Gilmour I think became Floyd, you know, because his and Roger Waters also, who's the, you know, they wrote a lot of songs together. They're both, you know, really instrumental. But anyway, so yeah, so they are an amazing band, and I just like, I've got Amazon Prime, so there's about 3 or 4 or 5 documentaries on Amazon Prime, you know, that I've started watching. I'm really psyched about that, and yeah, I just, you know, now, you know, it's all right. So like I've been playing Floyd now, you know, hours a day, 3, 4 hours a day, maybe 5. For the last several days, and you know, you know, in my mind, I just want to play just Floyd, you know, and who knows, maybe eventually I'll get to the point where I want to create music. I wrote some songs in the mid-90s to late 90s, and I also did some improvs on lead guitar and classical guitar, and I may get back to that. I mean, like, right now, you know, I'm just like developing the craft, developing the bass guitar. I mean, basically, I've only really been playing for about a year and a quarter. And that's once I figured out that, you know, my intention was to play lead through entire songs, because, you know, that's what I like to do. And it's like, it took me years. It's like mind-boggling. It took so long, but it took me years to realize that, I mean, if I was like super, super good on guitar, maybe that would work out, but I'm not. So, so what I realized is, like, basically to play lead throughout an entire song, you've got to play the lead on bass guitar, because it's an octave lower than the regular guitar, and it doesn't interfere with the melodies. I've probably mentioned this before here on a previous episode. All right, 15 minutes to go. So I was feeling really tired before, and I think I'm getting kind of like a second wind. I'm glad, you know, like, so you know, I was on the phone with Sprint, and I was trying to get onto my Zoom room, and like it didn't work. So I was, you know, it was supposed to go from 8 to 10, and like there was only 1 RSVP anyway, you know, to it, whatever. I mean, I usually get 3, 4 people at least, but that's all right. So like I figured, you know, I will record this, you know, and upload, and I got to upload yesterday's episode to YouTube, because I want to send it to the guest, you know, send it to him. Hopefully he can promote it. I don't promote my, you know, my work. I just put it up there and whatever. So what else? Things are getting intense with the COVID-19, you know, and like, you know, these freaking, you know, southern states, these red Republican states that are, they're clueless. Their governors are clueless. The people, you know, who, you know, they're, you know, a lot of them are racist, you know, I don't get them. But, you know, they're just like, they don't respect science. And now, like in Texas, Florida, you know, that have Republican governors, Arizona, I don't know if Arizona, I think Arizona, I don't know. But anyway, their numbers are really spiking, and, you know, like, and you know, the people are going to blame, you know, Trump and the Republican governors for being so stupid, for being so reckless, so mindless. But, you know, we got to see it. And I'm not getting a haircut, you know, you know, I'm walking around. I was sitting in front of CVS, you know, there's these benches there that are like, you know, and the sidewalk in front, it's in front of these apartments. I think they're called the Franklin apartments or the Jefferson apartments, I think, whatever. And they're really set back. In other words, the sidewalk in front of these 4 benches have to go 20 feet out, you know? And so this guy, I'm sitting there, you know, like with my mask down, because like I don't wear my mask if I can like safely distance. He's walking, you know, in my direction. He could have been walking on the other side to be 20 feet away from me, but he's walking in my direction, you know, so that when he passes me, if he's on a straight path, which it seemed like he was very, you know, that's what he was doing, he would have been walking like 2 feet from me. So like I'm waving him away, and he, you know, like first he pretends he doesn't know, then he gets it, and then he starts giving me an attitude. So I just like, you know, I lit into him a bit. You know, like I first started to be assertive, and he got disrespectful. So I just really, you know, gave him some stuff. So, but I mean, again, that's like, you know, like I think like going to town, people are, you know, I don't get people, you know, like, you know, it's so easy to distance oneself from people, you know, and you know, I'm not gonna like, you know, it's not, you know, it's not poor people, it's not Black people, it's not Hispanic people, it's pretty much all people that I see. You know, I mean, it's not everyone. No, as a matter of fact, no. Like, no. Let me backtrack on that. I was sitting in that on that bench for a while, and no, most of the people who walked by, you know, just gave me that space. You know, they didn't give me a space, as much space as I would have, but, you know, very few people do. I'll go out into the street if I have to, you know, and I do that. But most people, you know, they just, you know, or a lot of people, they're not taking precautions, and so you gotta see what that's gonna, you know, look like. So what else is going on? So, you know, like the area synagogues are going back soon to like regular service. I'm not going back there. I mean, like actually calling me, the Reform synagogue is going to have some outdoor things, bring a lawn chair and stuff, but I try to stay away from the sun, you know. You know, so yeah, I'm not sure I'm going to do that. But I was enjoying the Zoom things, you know, so we'll see what happens with that. What else? I don't know. I mean, like, I'm going to keep doing this. I don't care if I have nothing to talk about. I've got like 3 viewers anyhow, if that. That's fine. It's a chronicle. This is art, you know, this is like for posterity. This is for like, you know, 30, 40 years from now, when some researchers are like, you know, trying to determine how people were navigating this very unique time, you know, or actually it's not even going to be people in 30, 40 years. It's going to be artificial intelligence computers, these machine learned, you know, computers that'll analyze, you know, videos and just like come up with understandings about that, and then just, you know, explain the understandings to real people. So, oh, all right. I mean, this should have come in the beginning of the show, but, you know, so I was at the Black Lives Matter march and demonstration and rally and all yesterday, and a lot of people, you know, I'd say 400 or 500 people perhaps. I got to look for an article on it, you know, see how the papers covered it. But my criticism, there were a lot of speakers. There were about, you know, at least 10 or 15, including, I think I may have mentioned this yesterday. No, I couldn't have. I was on all right. So like, anyway, there was like, you know, there was like George Latimer, county executive Andrea Stewart Cousins, I guess, who's the head of the state Senate, New York State Senate. There was like Mayor Roach, Mayor of White Plains, some other people and some students and a few religious people, clerics, and they're all talking, right? And like they're talking about the problem. Yes, we know how bad it is. We've known how bad it is for years. And yes, and so now it's all over the news. So, I mean, what I'm trying to say is like, in a time like this where people know what the problem is, police brutality, racism, inequality, these forces that are conspire to oppress, vulnerable people. We get this. What was lacking in virtually everyone's presentation was, what do we do? And I'm not talking about just, well, let's form a commission, let's look into it, because I think that's what Latimer said. We're gonna look at this. They should have, each of those speakers should have had at least 3, 4, 5, 6 specific recommendations for what needs to be done, both about the policing, reforming policing, about why to the extent that Black people, for example, commit more crimes, low-level crimes than white people. And I say low level because like white people commit a lot of crimes. They're just not caught. It's white-collar crime. White people probably commit a lot more crimes than Black people. It's just that like, white people run the system and like, they don't prosecute white-collar crime that much. So, but anyway, with Black crime and stuff, a lot of this is a result of racism and inequality, unfairness. I've talked about it before. Governor Cuomo, to his credit, he was talking about how in some school districts the schools get about $12,000 a year per student, whereas in some schools districts that are much richer, they get about $40,000 per year. So that's just one of so many specific ways that some people just start out extremely disadvantaged and never make, it's not only do they have to like put up with the racism, they have to put up with the less, less income, less funding for schools. I mean, there's probably, numerous challenges that they have to. So anyway, so in this rally, and this doesn't just relate to speakers at rallies. It relates to politicians, because you don't hear many politicians talk about, well, this is the solution. And specifically, I'm not talking about, well, yeah, we're going to just like, we're going to have the Senate's going to look into this, House is going to look into this. They say that, and then like, then it's forgotten, right? I'm like, so I'm talking about specific solutions. I was on the show yesterday, I was talking with Drama Rock, my guest, and the point that I made was that, we spent about $3 trillion in stimulus money to get us out of this economic hole that the coronavirus has driven us into. And I would guess the vast majority of that money has gone to very rich people, corporations. And so my suggestion, here's a specific suggestion, Drama Rock was mentioning that it's not about just jobs for Black people, it's about ownership. They should be able to own businesses, but they can't own businesses because they don't make enough to afford to own businesses. Or maybe they can't get the loans from the banks, whatever. So like, the idea was that we're going to have to create a lot of jobs. We're going to have to spend a lot more money to get out of this mess. I mean, people don't realize that now, but at the end of the year, unemployment is going to be at over 10% probably. So let us spend $1 trillion, on helping Black people to become business owners, to create their own businesses. I mean, we owe them that. We more than owe them that. And that's just, again, one idea. I had that idea about, like, that the police, once they, apprehend someone who's, once they subdue the person and restrain them, the first thing they should do is handcuff the person behind their back and cable tie, zip tie their ankles so they can't get away, whatever. And at that point, there is absolutely no need for violence, for aggression, like the kind of violence that killed George Floyd. So that's just one idea that just came to me. It's not like I'm in police work or anything. It's like, there's probably a lot of obvious solutions. So this is what the politicians and the civic leaders, the protest leaders, the media should be talking about. So, but I get frustrated. I mean, like, one of my frustrations is, like, how do people not get, and it's not just about people, it's about, like, animals. How do people not get that what we're doing to these animals in factory farms is beyond horrible? It's worse than the Holocaust, it's worse than slavery, it's worse than World War II, it's worse, it's beyond horrible. And how do people just continue eating this meat and fish and eggs and dairy and just not, not voice, outrage, not voice, just their major moral objection to this horrible, beyond horrible travesty. This is across the board. This is rich, poor, black, white, throughout this country and throughout the world. So, I mean, like, and when you're religious, when you believe in God, and you believe in a God that rewards us when we do good and punishes when we do bad, then this coronavirus, it's like, it's God's being easy on us. What we deserve might be a lot worse. All right, enough of this fire and brimstone. What was that? That there was a preacher, Jonathan, I forget, whatever. Anyway, so I got about 50 seconds left. Hope you're having a good Tuesday. I hope you voted. I hope you voted Democrat. Get Republicans, just like completely terminate that party. Make them go back to the drawing board, and come up with something completely different that's intelligent and evolved. All right, so catch the show on White Plains Community Media Monday through Friday, 5 o'clock on channel 76 Optimum, 45 Verizon, and the shows are on YouTube. I gotta upload, I guess, another 5 of the most recent ones there. So anyway, I will see you tomorrow, and that's the sign I carried. It says "Protect Black Lives." That's one of the signs. On the other side, it says "God bless George Floyd." Okay, talk to you soon. Bye.